Stan Gibelisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1, GV, Whiskey 1, Good Vibrations. Thank you for your input on what you would like me to do on my channel, what kind of videos you'd like to see and hear from me. There seemed to be a general consensus in two directions. Number one, do whatever you want, you're the boss. And number two, we like ham radio, electronics, and in particular, it seems, ham radio in general. Stories, electronics, engineering, technical things like that. So, I'm going to tell you a little story, a little ham radio story. It was back in the early 1970s when I was WA0OKV, Whiskey Alpha Zero, Oscar, Kilo, Victor. I lived in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and went to the University of Minnesota, operating there, spending my evenings, not studying, but operating their station W0YC, Whiskey Zero Yankee Charlie. We had a big amplifier there that was homebrew. We had a Collins 75A4 receiver. I don't know what the driver for the driving transmitter for the amplifier was, but it was some sort of conventional radio of the time. Maybe something like a Heathkit SB101, was that it? Or something like, just a general transmitter. And I remember working on that amplifier once and forgetting to discharge the capacitors in the power supply with bleeder resistors. They apparently didn't have bleeder resistors in them, and it was a 3700 volt power supply. In between the thumb and right hand forefinger, you probably can't see it because of A, the poor quality of the video, and B, the scar is practically gone now. But the insulation on the wire there was cracked, and somehow or another the electrons managed to make their way from either my forefinger to my thumb or my thumb to my forefinger, and for some reason the middle of my hand was near ground and got the brunt of the arc. I don't remember exactly how it happened, except that I remember hearing a horrific snap. Sounded like a firecracker going off. And then my hand felt completely numb. And when I looked down at my hand, I was actually surprised to see that it was still there. And in fact, hardly looked any different than normal. There was just a blister between my thumb and my forefinger. I guess it must have been either my thumb or my forefinger that came into contact with the chassis of the radio, and the middle of my finger got near that wire with the cracked insulation carrying 3700 volts DC. But however it happened, there was just a little blister there. That little blister took something like 2 months to heal. And I had to wrap it with bandages every day for fear of it getting infected. Reminds me sort of something that's happening now to me with my foot. But all I can tell you is, when you're working on vacuum tube equipment or any other kind of high voltage equipment that has high voltage power supplies for say linear amplifiers, whether there's a bleeder capacitor complex there or not, always use a tool with an insulated handle, such as a Phillips screwdriver that's expendable because the tip of the thing is going to get ruined over time. And take some terminal that holds the positive charge, or all of the terminals that normally hold the plate supply voltage, and short them to the chassis to be sure that there isn't some remaining potential on that contact and on the wires leading to and from it. I've heard stories of people who have been thrown across rooms by the force of that voltage and the force of the current driven by that voltage through their heart cavity. Thank God that it wasn't that electric discharge did not occur through my chest cavity, or I might not be here today to tell you this. Beware of anything that has high voltage on it, even when it's switched off, and even if it's been switched off for a long time. In fact, if you go to work on any power supply for any amplifier that has a lot of voltage in it, no matter how long it's been sitting around, discharge every terminal that might carry any kind of significant DC voltage, because you never know when one bleeder resistor may fail, a capacitor might work better than you think it can, and you, my friend, might die or wish you had. Cheery little note, but a cautionary note. From Stan Gibilisco, W1GV, now I will say to you 73 and so long, which, on that and any other amplifier I've ever used, has, will now, and shall ever after translate to da-da-da-da-da-da.